People, hello everyone. Happy lunchtime. I can see people starting to come in now. It's filling up. We'll give it a few minutes. Make sure to boil the kettle or get a sandwich. Tom has been WhatsApping me all morning telling me how good this demonstration is going to be. So by all means, I think I won't put the popcorn on, Tom. I think that might be a little bit disruptive.
Yeah, I'm not very good for putting pressure on myself. Everyone, it's really good.
Yeah, you have my expectations really high. But
yeah.
No, look, very much happy to welcome everyone here, and thanks for making the time as well. We'll give it a few more minutes as it's still filtering in. I can see the attendee list rising, which is great. Whilst we are settling in, I'm sure we're all quite familiar with using Zoom at the moment, but you'll see there's a Q&A section down at the bottom as well. We'll probably do a bit of a Q&A towards the end of the session today. So if there's parts in which we're going through, I'll ask you just to put in questions there. I'll keep a monitor on them if there's anything that's urgent as well. We are recording the session as well, just so everyone is aware. So hopefully this can feed out to other people who have registered who may not be able to attend right now, and can be reviewed in your own time as well. Generally 3 minutes past, Tom. I think we're good to get into it. I guess very welcome to everybody. My name, as you'll see on the screen, is Paul O'Leary. I'm a Pardot B2B marketing specialist here in Salesforce. And I'm very glad to be joined by Tom Ryan, the founder and owner of MarCloud Consulting and MarCloud Technologies, who has kindly nominated himself to give us a real talk through today of how we can use Pardot for companies that are providing software or potentially a SaaS platform to their own customers. Tom is the founder of MarCloud Consultancy, a Pardot consultancy, has recently embarked upon being a tech company as well, really, with their own application specifically for people using Pardot as well. So it's great to have somebody that's uniquely placed between both the technology in Pardot and both the technology on his own side, to give us a bit of insight here today. How are you, Tom?
Thanks for the intro. So that's exactly it. We're perfectly positioned. We've set Pardot up in line with best practice for our own SaaS business. And I guess the purpose of today is to show off what we've done as a bit of a case study, and to highlight some points that might prompt some ideas for everyone watching, so they can incorporate that into their own approach in terms of the SaaS model. You did a great introduction. We're a Salesforce partner, focusing primarily on Pardot, but we also do Sales Cloud, we do Marketing Cloud, we do Analytics Studio. But Pardot's always been my baby, which is why I'm doing today's demo. So to jump right in, I've only got one slide, which is good because we want to get to the live demo. But this kind of illustrates what we're looking at today. So if we look at the very beginning, so it's super important to have an emphasis over lead source and understanding all of the data entry points. For example, if you're doing any PR, tracked links there, could be ads, could be social, could be anything. And we want to make sure that we capture that lead source information, even if the process is a little bit fragmented. So what I mean by that is a lot of SaaS businesses have a sign up or login process where you can log in with Facebook, log in with Google, and that's where you can kind of lose some of the tracking association. And what I'm going to illustrate today is how to reconnect that, the activities and so on, because we've replicated that kind of fragmented approach and provided a solution on how to move forwards with it. So focus on lead source, really focusing on tracking all of those first touch points. Then moving on to the tracking code. So the Pardot tracking code should be on every page of the website, on every landing page that you use. and preferably you'd be using first-party cookies. We could actually have a whole webinar on that topic, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that, but first-party cookies are the way everything's going, and recommend setting that up. Moving forward, SaaS businesses tend to have that kind of registration, free trial or request a demo form and function. And in which case, at this point here, in the demo I'm about to show, we're not putting them into Salesforce straight away. Main reason being is we want to keep the CRM clean, and we're going to use Pardot to try and show off the value of the platform and then get subscriptions that way. And we'd use the Engagement Studio to do that. So assuming you've got a nurture program set up, that can then link nicely in with the subscription or the paid sign up, which is essentially the sale. At that point, they go into Salesforce, and subsequently you would suppress them from any nurture programs that you've got set up. And there's lots of different scenarios for this. Ideally, you'll be using the opportunity object, but if you're not, if you're using a custom object, you can have a custom object integration with Pardot, and you can use suppression lists that way. For example, if someone signed up and paid, don't nurture them. They already know what the product is. Off the back of the paid sign up, you can then introduce them to an onboarding program to alleviate some of the time from customer success or sales to help them adopt and use the platform. It could be an educational series. It could be making them aware of different functionalities, potentially upsell, but just basically getting them set up for success straight away with Pardot. The next step is this part on the right here. So all of the before accrues data, and we want to be able to use that data to then make better decisions, whether it be to optimize the whole journey or to then prompt upsell, cross-sell opportunities. And I'm going to show off a nice dashboard as part of the demo. And then the last point on this, it's very common amongst SaaS businesses, is that renewal date. So being able to actually contact people in the run-up to their renewal. So the more time that you leave for this, for example, 3 months, and you start nurturing them on the build up to the renewal, whether it be to re-engage with the platform or just to sort of re-establish value, they're more likely to resubscribe or renew their license. And it prompts that extra engagement with the platform. So that's the gist of the architecture. So now we've got that concept out of the way, you can jump into the demo, which is the good bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in Pardot just to set the scene. So as I mentioned, as part of the map, what we've got is we want to track initial lead source. So in some examples, it may well be that you set up a custom redirect, really, really useful for PR, third-party publications, give them a tracked link, and then you can actually measure how that channel does, whether they bring you high quality leads or high number of leads. You can kind of ascertain what type of leads they're actually bringing in. So just to kick off this process, I'm going to click this tracked link, and you'll see that I've populated the UTM parameters because I want to bring those into Pardot. So if I click this tracked link now, that's going to take me to the MarCloud Technologies website. And by this point, you can see the UTM parameters in the URL at the top there. So I'm just going to close this tab. Just to set the scene, we've built an app. It's a Pardot business card scanner and lanyard scanner. It's on the app exchange, on the app stores, sorry. And the main reason we did this is for best practice. We're the only company in the world to have done this. It creates prospects in Pardot, not leads in Salesforce, and it keeps your CRM clean. So SaaS platform, we sell on a license model, which means that we have our login portal, and that's what we're going to measure today as part of this demo. We want people to sign up for more licenses, pretty much. So straight away, I'm going to accept the cookie because I'm absolutely fine with that. I'm going to scroll down, look at some of the information on this page. Great, lots of different languages, works, brilliant. And there's a little video down here that I'm gonna have a look at. So I'm just gonna mute this because the music's terrible. Bear with me. There we go. So this video is hosted on Wistia. And the reason why we've done that is because that links nicely in with Pardot. So we're going to be able to see how much of the video someone's actually watched. So let's just say we get to a point in the video, I've watched enough of this that I'm actually willing to register. So I go straight to the registration page because I'm interested, it's great, and I'm gonna sign up. So bear with me while I just create a really strong password. Okay, so what we've done behind the scenes, so we own this platform. This is our platform. We can amend it. In some cases, some SaaS companies don't own the platform, and in which case you can speak to the developers who look after that. But all we really need is a form handler on this registration page. And that's what we've got on this form here. So when I hit submit, it's going to do its normal process. It's going to carry on doing whatever it's doing, but it's also, as a side action, it's going to post to Pardot. Now, I want that to happen because I want a prospect to be created in the system where I know that they've registered. So if I hit submit here, this is going to register me to the platform. And behind the scenes, that's now created a prospect in Pardot. So before I go any further on this screen here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to head over to the prospect, and I'm going to show you how this looks behind the scenes from the Pardot side, due to the way that we've set this up. So the form handler has created the prospect. And when this loads, we can see that the prospect's been created here. I'll click into the prospect and brilliant. So we can see the form handler has triggered. We can see that an email has been sent, and that's important in just a moment, because what you might notice is that the video isn't showing on there, lead source isn't showing on there, and the page views aren't showing on there. And this is pretty common for some SaaS businesses because of the way that the system is configured, the back-end system. This could be logging in with Facebook, signing up with Google, that kind of concept. So we've replicated that in this instance. Park that for a second. I'm just going to show you some of the things that we've pulled in. So initially, we've got this scoring category set up, which I think is really useful. Everyone should be using this if you've got a Pardot Plus account and above. This basically tells us how interested someone is in a particular thing. In this instance, it's very clear that they're interested in the MarCloud technology side of the business because there's no reference to MarCloud consulting. So our consulting services. Scroll down a bit further, the information on the registration form has pulled in nicely. The registration date has been populated. So the form handler is responsible for that. So it's updated a date. So now we know they've registered. Once we link them to Salesforce, if they are to purchase, we then know, or we can create dynamic lists on that basis. But I'll run into those ideas in just a moment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open this email that was sent and show you why that's important. So if I go back to this email here, I've received two emails. The first one is an operational email. So this comes from our own platform. This is an email that's triggered once I register on the platform. It's not tracked. This is not a tracked email. It's just basically saying, thank you for signing up. We've recognized your registration, that kind of thing. Now, that's not tracked, but this one up here is. What I've done is I've set up an autoresponder in Pardot because I want to benefit from all of the tracking that gives us. So if I open this email, it's just a really polite email saying, thanks for registering. Here's why the app's so valuable. You've made a good decision. Here's some more information if you need it. But more importantly, there's a logical next step. What I've added into this email is a nice login button. And the next logical step, once you've registered, is to log in. So I'm going to hit this, and it's going to take me to the login page of the platform. So before I log into this, I want to show you what's happened behind the scenes. So this is that record that I just showed you. If I now refresh this record, it will populate with some more information. So wait for this to load. Okay, perfect. So I just want to spend a bit of time on this because it's quite important. So it's retroactively populated information based on the Pardot cookie. So what we have is this really nice timeline now, which tells a nice story. It says that I've viewed the homepage, which I did. I've viewed the video, and I viewed about just under 30 seconds, which is brilliant. I've got the amount of the video that someone's actually watched before they went on to convert, which is the registration here. That already gives me enough information on the video, which is quite cool, in my opinion. Opened the autoresponder, clicked the link, and this part here I find really, really useful from a marketing perspective. So this part here is we've pulled in the UTM parameters from the first link click. So not only do we have all of the association, all of the dots are connected, we've got the video view from Wistia, we've also got all of the UTM parameters, and we've updated lead source. All of this information is populated. So if I scroll down slightly, I can now see that the source is populated. I've chosen to set this as Salesforce webinar because that's what this is. But at the very bottom here, we have all of the Google Analytics UTM parameter information, which means I know the term that someone might have searched for. It could be that we populate this with rich information about which third-party site that we've hosted a link on. But this is now populated off the back of that association between the cookie and the Pardot email, which is why we always say it's really good to have those Pardot emails sent, even if you are sending operational emails, just to connect the dots. And doing it at the point of registration means that you can catch someone when they're most engaged. So I think this is a really nice approach. Cool, so really happy with that. Lots of information in the record starting to show now. Bearing in mind, all of this can sync to Salesforce, and all of this is going to show on the Salesforce record when they're assigned. Perfect. So if I go back to the login page now, I'm gonna log in and pretend I'm a normal prospect in this situation. So I've logged in. We've got another form handler on that login form so that we can actually measure how many times someone's logged in, which is a really nice touch. But I'm going to go to our pricing because I want to purchase a license, for example. So our pricing is actually on the home page. So this is going to take me to the home page. I want to look at this license here. And let's just say I want 6 licenses. And oh my God, that is actually really expensive. Genuinely, we are going to amend our pricing. It is too high. But let's just say that we gathered this data from this research. So park the fact we're going to reduce the pricing. This pricing is too much. I'm no longer interested in this. And then I drop off. If I refresh this, as a decision maker, I can look at this data, at least from an individual level, and I can say, I can get an idea of their particular journey. So I can see all of that previous stuff we looked at a minute ago. I can see that they logged into their account, they went back to the home page, but then they reached the subscription page, and then they didn't purchase. So based on that information, I might then say, actually, our pricing is too high. We need to amend that. Or there could be other problems like the subscription process doesn't work, or I can gather some sort of insight into why they haven't converted at that point. You'll see again, the scoring categories are going up. Now this is becoming quite a high score for the Pardot app. So again, I need to ask the question, why haven't they converted? There must be something wrong. And in this instance, it's the pricing. But if we scroll down back to that section down here, what we've got is a bit more information about the engagement with the platform. So we've got their last logged in date. We've got the number of times they logged in. And if we wanted to, we'd actually see the registration page views for those who were cookied and then viewed the registration page. So there's lots of ideas here. At the moment, we know that this prospect hasn't converted and purchased a license. So what I might do is I might set up some dynamic lists, and then I would set up an engagement program to start sending emails to these prospects who have kind of got to the edge where they're about to purchase, but they haven't. So I can then prompt them, and maybe I ask them to fill in a form to ask them why they haven't bought yet. And then you can get some qualitative data around that reason. But even just on this short demo, if we have a look at this prospect record, it looks quite complete. We've got video views, page views, activities, links, clicks, opens, UTM information, number of logins, the registration date, the login date. And because we have all of that, it informs us and allows us to make better decisions, especially around the engagement studio, which I'm about to show you now. So let's park that for just a moment. If I can get my tabs right. So I've got the sharing screen right at the top. There we go. Perfect. So we've set up a couple of engagement studios off the back of that information that they have now. One of them is an onboarding series, and the other hasn't logged in for 3 months. So we kind of got two angles on this. I'll start with the onboarding series, which is for those who have registered. So I've got a list set up, which then allows any registrants, new registrants, to go into an onboarding series and look at how simple this is. It doesn't need to be any more complex. Although we could start to add them to campaigns, we can notify people, create tasks if we need to reach out to them. But all we've done for now is kept it simple. And we've said, if you've registered, the next day, we're going to send you an email around how to set your users up for success. So what we've got, again, login button. Here's some information. Prepare your information to configure the app or the software. Purchase licenses if you need, and reach out if you need a hand. So we've got all of this information automatically sent. So it kind of acts as a self-service element to the whole process, which is really, really nice, especially when you're dealing with prospects en masse. So that's one example that we've set up. The next one we're sending just under 2 months later. And this one's a plain text email from me. So I used to work at a lead generation agency years ago. And we found that there was really good results from sending emails that kind of looked like the genuine article. And we would send follow-up emails with all of that normal information that you'd see when you forward an email or reply to it. So date, subject line, forward, and that kind of thing. And you can build that into the engagement studio to get quite good engagement results. So in this instance, I'm just sending a friendly reminder. If they hit reply, it comes to me. Now, in your context, you might want to change this dynamically so that it comes from the salespeople. Whoever they're assigned to in Salesforce, send an email, reach out to me. I'm your account manager. If you need any support, just let me know, hit reply to this email, that kind of thing. And assuming they're using Salesforce Engage or any other Salesforce product, links to Outlook or Gmail, then you can sync those emails into Salesforce as well. So there's quite a lot of connection when it comes to the CRM. So we've got that set up for the onboarding. But what we also have set up is this hasn't logged in for 3 months. Main reason being is we want people to engage with the platform. So we've got a dynamic list that says if you haven't logged in for 3 months, remember, we've got the date of their last login, which is really important. We've used that date to then send an email 3 months later, which basically says you haven't engaged. Is everything okay? Do you need more licenses? Do you need some support? And here's our information if you need to reach out. Really, really basic examples of how you can use that kind of information with a platform. So I want to jump over now to the Salesforce side because I want to look at some of the more sort of intuitive reporting features once you've accrued all of this data. So jumping over to a contact record in Salesforce, I highly recommend everyone set up engagement history, because from a sales user perspective, it's really, really powerful to see how someone has engaged over a period of time. So straight away, we've got the engagement information on the right-hand side here, which tells us exactly when they've engaged, what they've engaged with, and you can kind of get a feel for their last movements. You have this engagement history feature here, which tells us the assets that they've engaged with. Again, we've labeled ours as per our naming convention. So it's very clear straight away that this is related to MarCloud Technologies rather than our consulting side of the business, which gives us a bit of a better idea of what to talk about. But one thing I want to show off as part of this example is the engagement history on the actual record itself. So this tab is really cool because it brings together lots of different data points. One thing that one way a salesperson might use this is looking at the activities over time to see the trajectory of engagement, whether it's a positive one or in this case, a negative one. So at face value, what you might say is this person's not really engaged anymore. There was a lot of engagement in February through to May, but then it kind of dropped off. Now we're in September. We don't know if they're engaging much or not. You'd assume that they aren't. However, what I might do is, based on this information, I know that they're engaged with MarCloud Technologies. So I'm going to click into this engaged campaigns, and I'm going to look at the MarCloud Technologies campaign. This tells a different story. This suggests that they're now quite engaged. If we're looking at August and September, now quite engaged with MarCloud Technologies. So now the data is telling us something quite positive, whereas previously it was quite negative. We can see on the right-hand side here exactly what they're engaging with. But again, naming conventions are important, and we've set these up as page actions that filter through to this dashboard, so we get lots of rich information. And then just below here, we can see all of the line items of things that the prospect has engaged with and the timestamp, which I think is really cool, especially just for an individual perspective, sales, looking at a lead or a contact. Brilliant. So I'm going to jump over to the campaign now because I want to get a different view of this. I want to start thinking about accounts and how accounts are engaging with particular campaigns. So for those who are more focused on account-based marketing, this is really good. We've got the engagement list metrics view down here, so we can see the overall performance of our emails. For example, you might have a campaign for the onboarding series, and then we can measure the engagement there. You might have one for the re-engagement for the 3-month inactivity, and so on. It just gives you that top level view of how everything's performing. But again, I just want to jump over to this engagement tab, and it gives a similar view of the one before on the contact, but with a different lens. So here we can start to see engagement over time, but also it's going to factor in any accounts that have engaged. So if you're working on account-based marketing as a marketer or a salesperson with access to campaigns, you might view this and say, actually, I need to reach out to some of these accounts because they appear to be quite interested. And we can actually find out who within that account has actually engaged with those particular assets, just so we know who the right decision maker is or the right person is within the business to speak to about the MarCloud Technologies app, for example. So those engagement history features are really powerful. Really wanted to just kind of show off on a top level how those think through and how you can utilize them. But more importantly, I want to jump over to B2B marketing analytics. So what we've done here is we've used all of the data that we've accrued up until this point, and we've built a custom dashboard. So really like this. Really like this dashboard. Completely custom. And the general idea of this is that it's going to give us an overall performance of the platform. So it might be number of logins over time. So we can see this trend here. Perfect, they've registered and people have started to log in. That's good, it's going on the upward trend. We can keep an eye on that. We can also see by country. Now, we've got the hypothesis that due to business cultural reasons, the Pardot business card scanner app is going to do really well in Asia. However, this is going to just make our decisions for us. If we start to see big engagement in the UK and US, it means that our budget would lean more towards those areas as opposed to our initial hypothesis, which has been disproved initially due to the initial data that's come through. So it's really important that we've got an initial hypothesis that we can prove or disprove using the data that we've got. If we don't have the hypothesis, we are still kind of guessing, and we should always be trying to make data-driven decisions as opposed to just general sentiment of the business. Now, I showed you how lead source can populate through into Pardot. That syncs through into this platform, which means that we can start to break it down by source. So straight away, we've got UK, Great Britain. That's a problem. That might mean there's an issue with the initial form registration sign up. So I need to speak to the developers to try and align that so that there's one value, maybe United Kingdom rather than those two. I wanted to show this off because it's very easy to distort and make reports look incorrect if you don't standardize the data. The standardization of data is really important there. But I want to play around with this dashboard. So if I look at Google Natural Search, where people have come from, this is going to tell me a couple of things. Firstly, it's going to change the dashboard. And I know that most people from search came from the UK. But then also, if I wanted to, I could work out of Google Natural Search, how many people went on to purchase a subscription and from where. So lots of different data points there. But the question that answers is, for example, how effective is Google search? Okay, in the UK, it's really effective because people tend to convert to a rate of 80%, for example. Whereas if we're focusing on different countries, perhaps China, where Google's are not used as much, or if there's rules around Google, we might find that's a different search engine, or it might be a different paid ad that's more effective within that region. We can delve straight into the details as well because we have that UTM information, and we can lean on that information to find out what are the best ads that are converting in this country and prompting the most signups. There's loads of different data points there that we can look at to try and optimize our marketing efforts, if that makes sense. A couple more things on here that I wanted to show off. So you can actually visualize the data. So as we know, as part of the sign up and registration, we're asking for the country that they're in. So what that means is I'm able to create this customized report in B2B Marketing Analytics, which really shows off geography. Registration, or in this example, logins, because in our context, logins leads to paid subscriptions. And we're working out the heat map. So as I mentioned, we originally thought that Asia would be our biggest market. Well, just based on this visualized report, you can see that it's not. Still early days, but this would suggest that we should be looking at the West to begin with and then focusing on the East. So straight away, using data to highlight and visualize things in different ways that will either prove or disprove your original hypothesis, and perhaps teach you new things about your audience and about your data. Honestly, B2B Marketing Analytics is extremely powerful. And at the moment, we're just using data from Pardot and Salesforce, but there is an option to use B2B MA Plus, where you can actually pull in data from different sources like analytics, AWS, and lots of different connected platforms. You can connect it with anything pretty much. So this is a really nice visual, but if we go down even further, again, a couple of different ways to manipulate the data. What I've done in this bottom left one here is I've created a kind of account leaderboard by location. Main reason being is we're anticipating there to be different behaviors, even in the same organizations across the globe. There might be more uptake in particular countries within businesses than others. To put it into context for other SaaS businesses, perhaps you're working with banks and you're working with HSBC, for example. Now, we know that HSBC is global, and what we might want to do is to create this kind of leaderboard where we're splitting HSBC down into its relevant countries and then measuring the engagement based on that. So HSBC China, HSBC UK, HSBC US, that kind of thing. And then we can start to take the account-based marketing approach, whereby we can say, actually, there's huge uptake in these countries. We need to really focus on really working that account because there's still so much opportunity. Now we need to focus on these different countries. And it may well be that you start to have sort of multilingual campaigns. It might just be uptake is low because it's all in English, for example. So therefore it kind of changes the way that you actually approach marketing because of the data. I mean, you can delve into it as deep as you like, so long as you're actually collecting the data, which is why that first data point, which is what I showed you with the custom redirect and the form handler, that's why it's so important there. There's huge emphasis on that data entry point, because that's where you're starting to accrue all of this knowledge. And then the last point on this report down here is we've got top countries registering by month. This here allows us to see the growth areas. So what we've got in this whole report is platform engagement. We've got account-based marketing by location, but this one here is kind of trying to be a bit of a forecast. So where are our major growth areas? Where do we need to really double down and put more emphasis on? Because we've got a lot of registrations within that region, suggesting that there might be, it could be regional events for us. So there's lots of big events coming up within that particular industry, even, or by location. And you could say, right, we need to focus on India, because clearly there's a lot of uptake there. It could be that lots of events are coming up. And given current events, it might be that the country's opening up again. So we can kind of put this data into the context of real life and apply it in whichever way that we see fit. But the gist of this, and just to highlight how long this report took me, I think it took me about 2 or 3 hours to set up this dashboard. Obviously, I've got a lot of experience, but it really wasn't that hard to set up. And the point I'm trying to make there is, if you've got the data that's already there, give it a go. Go into B2BMA, start setting up these custom dashboards to try and achieve what the questions that you're trying to answer. And imagine if you had 2 weeks set aside for this as a project, you can make a lot of progress quite quickly. It's just about really focusing on the right things. And this is really going to enable you to do better things, especially with SaaS platforms and proprietary softwares. That's it. We've covered a lot, but I guess we've left a little bit of room for questions. Yeah, Paul, I guess we should just jump to questions.
Yeah, by all means. I don't see anyone. If anyone has some questions, you'll see the Q&A section down at the bottom. Please feel free to ask around. I saw there was one question earlier, just in relation to the customizability of the engagement history dashboards, Tom. I know a lot of what you had in the engagement history dashboards that we see in the contact record or the account record or the campaign record. Do we have a lot of flexibility there in terms of what we can customize to get filtered into that section?
Yeah, you do. You obviously, there's the filters at the top that can help you sort of change the data. But you can amend what you see there and limit it based on certain filters, for example. But you do want to kind of keep it somewhat as it is. because it will pull in everything as standard. It's kind of meant to be quite out of the box, if that makes sense. But there is an element of customization to it.
Good. I think that's similar into what I was saying. And that one of the questions just after coming in is how do you get the page visit count and the date in a field?
Cool. So the way I did it was you set up a field in Pardot. So it needs to be the right format. So for the date field, I chose a date field. And what I did was, upon submission of the registration form or the login form, the form handler had a completion action, which was to set the submission date to today, which basically populated that field. So as soon as you fill in the form, it's going to update and populate that date. Now, one thing I didn't mention was on our platform, you can't register twice with the same email address, which basically protects that date field. It means that you can't fill in the form again and add a new date. So we can rely on that registration date. The number of page views, again, we set up a custom field in Pardot. We set it to be a number field. And then we set up a page action to sit on each of the individual pages. And then there was a completion action to then increase it by 1 every time they hit that page. And then that's what populated that field. So it's completion actions that have been firing on those prospects. And again, that needs to be a cookied prospect, which is why there's so much emphasis on sending Pardot emails to kick off the process.
Great stuff. And then from Charlie, is connected campaigns essential to pull through the engagement on the campaigns?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah. I mean, connected campaigns are essential anyway. If you're going to be doing any sort of intelligent marketing in terms of multi-touch attribution modeling, any form of account-based marketing, I mean, connected campaigns is a really, really key feature. And in my opinion, should be turned on for all accounts. I don't think there's ever a use case where I would say, don't turn it on. It's just too good for reporting.
So another one in here, referring back to the start of the demo, they wanted to ask about registration free trial section and only having the prospects in Pardot. If we're using lead object and our Salesforce Pardot connector is bidirectional, how do we stop the prospect from going into Salesforce? Is there a way we can avoid that?
Yes, there is. So it's going to vary from business to business because it depends on the back end setup. Now, it's two answers to this question, I guess. So the first one would be to follow a similar format to what we've got for MarCloud Technologies, where we use the form handler to create the prospect. We don't assign them, and we don't, on the registration form, we don't add them or don't API into Salesforce. So we just simply rely on the prospect creation. If for whatever reason where the lead needs to be created, perhaps there is a process where sales actually do need to reach out and prompt the engagement, which is relatively common as well. In that case, you can rely on the sync back to Pardot, because if a lead's created, it will create a prospect in Pardot because the sync's really good. You could use that point there to then trigger the emails. So once they're created and once they meet a certain criteria, that's when you'd send them the onboarding email or the welcome email, that kind of thing. But all you're really doing is identifying the point of data entry and then using that to say, actually, that's the point we want to send them the email. And then you basically go from there. So you don't really need to rebuild your whole process. You just need to be able to identify the key points in the process where you want to connect the dots, if that makes sense.
Brilliant, yeah. And I think similar point here, a lot of people asking around the engagement history dashboards and the analytics in general. I know I spent a lot of time on that, so you'll be glad to be getting the questions in. Will the custom redirect also be tracked if I send an email through, for example, Zapier? And it does not have to be related, and does it have to be related to a Salesforce campaign in order to see it in the engagement history dashboard?
So yes and yes, it does work. A custom redirect will work anywhere. as long as it's going to a page with the Pardot tracking code. That's really important. So the custom redirect you can have on someone else's website. So if it's in a Zapier email, it's the same concept. It's just somewhere that someone can click it. I clicked it in the demo from Pardot, so it doesn't really matter where it's hosted. That then hits the Pardot tracking code, and that's where the cookie relationship starts. So Pardot goes, I can see the first touch point, which was the custom redirect click from the Zapier email, which is all good. And then, yes, you do want connected campaigns set up. You want that custom redirect saved, linked to that campaign, and then the data will flow through.
Brilliant. And as well, can we create custom dashboards and B2B analytics if we don't have B2B Plus?
Yes.
So you can, obviously, as you've shown, what you created there was created in B2B Analytics rather than B2B Analytics Plus. Am I right in saying that?
Correct. So if you've got B2B Marketing Analytics, you can do exactly what I've showed in that demo. Essentially, everything I've shown is available to everyone who has Pardot Plus and above.
Yeah, I think where the differentiation in terms of B2B Marketing Analytics Plus comes in, and you referenced it in the demo, Tom, as well, is looking to bring in external data from all sources that you might be getting marketing touch points from, and it can be used really as a data analytics tool in its own right then, not just a complementing feature of Pardot. That's all the questions we have in at the moment. If anyone has any other ones, I'll give it a second. But I first and foremost like to thank Tom very much for you putting all that together. Thought it was really good, really engaging, really sparking people's interest, I think, here in terms of the analytics. Another question has come in here as well. But really appreciate the insight and just taking time to kind of put something that's not just a generic demonstration of Pardot, but something that's specific to the use case of many customers who are in that high-tech SaaS software provisioning business. Just going to read this other question. Once you set up the B2B marketing analytics, how does it take to see the data of your prospects in the dashboard?
I believe it's 24 hours. Yeah, I think it's from memory, it's 24 hours. That's a good question. But there's a data manager as part of B2B MA, and you can schedule the data refreshes, and you could actually prompt it to run now. So as soon as you set it up, what we tend to do is we'll just run them all just so they're all up to date, but also run them in a particular order, give them a bit of time to refresh so you don't overlap. But you can make it happen a little bit quicker. But yeah, I might need to refer back to the documentation just to make sure it's 100% correct. But 24 hours is typically the amount.
Yeah, similar to what I expected. And is it possible to check if a website has Pardot code on it or not without going into Pardot?
Yes. So a couple of ways to do it. First one is you just right click, go to page source, and then search for, I normally search for CID. That just means campaign ID. And it'll either be pi.pardot.com, you'd see a link to that, and you'd see the script. Although if you're using first-party cookies, it would look very much like your own domain. So we've got pardot.marcloudtechnologies.com. Now, that's if it's been added to the page itself, but more often than not, users will use Google Tag Manager. So what you need to do is you can use an app like I think there's a Google Analytics Tag Manager Chrome extension where you can just look into the tag and then you can see the tracking code there, and it will be same code, CID, pi.pardot.com, that kind of script. Just do Control F and look for it.
Great stuff. We're coming up on the hour now. We've 10 minutes, which I think we were planning to have to spare anyway. But again, really appreciate everyone joining here today. Very much a big thank you from myself and Tom. Please let us know if you found this useful. We'd love to run something else before the end of the year. And of course, as myself from a Salesforce perspective, if there's any further questions,
always reach out to your core account executives, reach out to Tom directly. You'll have his details or my own details following on from this if there's any questions or want to engage with them from a Pardot consultancy perspective. And the webinar will be available on demand. So if you want to share it with anyone, they will be able to just log in and get access to view the recording of this as well. Okay, so with that, I'm going to finish up and wish everyone a good day.